9:04 this morning. Alan Quinlan, host of the Red 78 podcast, joins us. Alan, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Ger.
Yeah,
yourself?
The URC at the weekend, a bit off Broadway, but it's an opportunity for those players who are on the fringes of the Ireland squad to remind the selectors and everybody else that they're pushing hard. Was there anything in Munster's performance in their scrappy win that was of note from an Ireland perspective?
Yeah, I think Dave Kilcoyne and Craig Casey played well. It was all four games, Ger, were probably, the words to use were hard fought, scrappy. Weather conditions were bad, so there was plenty of mistakes in the four wins for the Irish provinces. But I suppose Munster, it was a must need win first and foremost. To get the bonus point was important. It put them ahead of Edinburgh. They briefly got into third place until Glasgow played on Saturday. But is there anything that stands out? Well, the man that got the 3 tries in the wing reminded everyone of his ability to finish tries, Simon Zebo. I think.
How close is Zebo to the Ireland squad at the moment?
I don't know.
James Lowe came back obviously at the weekend as well.
Yeah, and James Lowe got a great try for Leinster. Look, I just think we always talk about Simon Zebo and this X factor and this ability to, it's kind of like a striker in soccer, just get goals. And it's just, you notice something with Zebo when he gets the ball anywhere within the sniff of a try line or an opportunity. He has incredible acceleration. His weakness, I suppose, and this is something maybe that has hindered him a little bit, is probably the work rate, the aggressiveness, and probably a relentless type of energy that some other wingers bring who are less talented than him. He's incredibly talented. He's good under the high ball, great left boot, and he's a brilliant finisher. I just think that the third try he scored the other night, Munster swept back down the blind side. Ben Healy did really well to fix a defender, but I just had this feeling that if Zebo gets the ball in his hands, he's going to score here. He's just that bit of acceleration to get away. And it's hard to ignore someone who could score 3 tries like that. He hadn't to do a huge amount or anything remarkable, but you just feel if he gets anywhere close to a scoring opportunity, he finishes it. And I just think that, I don't know, I'd love to see him back involved in some way, but look, he obviously needs lots of games and he's played very little this season.
He's 32.
You can't discount him.
He's 32 in March, so he'll be 34 by the time the World Cup rolls around. Is Robert Balakoon ahead of him at this stage in the selectors' minds, or is there an opportunity for him? If he was to get a run of games and his conditioning improves to a point where it's like, okay, he's going to be able to go for 87, 88, 90 minutes, however long a rugby game is these days at international level, that we could put him in and trust him?
I think so. I think obviously you ask is Robert Balakoon ahead in the selectors' minds? Well, obviously yes, because that's the way the selection went for the Six Nations, the 37-man squad. Mac Hansen's ahead of him, James Lowe's ahead of him, Andrew Conway's ahead of him.
Keith Earls.
Michael Lowry got picked in, Keith Earls. So these guys have been picked. I just think, is there anything he can do? Well, the World Cup is 18 months away, really. So if he's 32 in March, he'll be 33 maybe in September 2023. I just think someone like Simon Zebo, if he just needs to play regularly and obviously kind of really nail down that jersey in Munster and play week after week. I just think if he's fitter and match fitter, he can add to any team, and he has that quality. But it's just about consistency, and it's up to him himself what kind of drive, desire, determination he has to get back into that Irish squad. I'm sure he'd love to be back involved. If he has a good period from now to the end of the season, he may get into Andy Farrell's squad for New Zealand, so they'll probably bring an extended squad there. So all is not lost for him. I just think a couple of glimpses the other night shows that he has something special, and you can't discount that.
what we're looking for in a winger changed a little bit over the last little while? Because obviously Mac Hansen comes in, plays so well, pops up as a midfielder at times, and has a versatility that he's showing his skills right across the pitch as the game gets broken down, I guess, throughout the 80 minutes. So are we judging wingers on those terms rather than whether or not they can play well hugging the touchline for their province?
Well, I think it's advantageous, Owen, if you have footballing wingers who do come in off the wing and affect the game on a regular basis. I think Damien Penaud does it so well for France. He just pops up everywhere, and I've always been a fan of wingers coming in off that touchline and being options and pinning down back rows or hunting down the halfbacks and just keeping them honest and stuff like that. So has it changed a little bit? Not, first and foremost, it's like a prop. You have to get your scrum right first, and if wingers can score your tries, you've got to get them the ball. But obviously, when the game opens up a bit, and there's lots of different phases, it does help. I think Simon Zebo is well able to, be a playmaker and be an option like that. Since he's come back from France, look, he's only a handful of games played between COVID, injury, and stuff like that. So I think he's well capable of being a footballer like that. But you're right, Hansen, James Lowe have added to the Ireland attack, and I wouldn't say that's an issue that's keeping Simon Zebo out. I just think he needs to be fitter, stronger, and probably show it on a regular basis.
Let's talk about the Italy game. If Sexton is fit, who do you pick at 10?
I don't know, Ger. It's a difficult one because I'd love to say, pick Carbery and let him kind of express himself with less pressure and really build his confidence and resilience. And maybe that's the way to go. But then you don't have Johnny Sexton he hasn't played a game for 4 weeks then when you face England, or over 4 weeks. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. So I don't know. Maybe if Johnny Sexton is fit and he's the captain of the squad, I'm sure he'll probably be arguing that out with Andy Farrell.
But don't we need to see, like, I can't see any case for picking Sexton at 10 against Italy. I can't see any case for picking Sexton at 10 against Italy, and then maybe Carbery plays so well that Sexton is now on the bench, and that's just it. That's what happens. Like, Sexton overtook O'Gara, and then O'Gara overtook him at the World Cup. But that's how this works. Like, just because he's captain, we can't be grandfathering him into the team.
No, look, of course not. And maybe there's more benefit in giving Joey Carbery another start. And as I said, there'll be less pressure. It'll still be messy, and there is still pressure. But maybe there is more benefit in starting Joey Carbery and letting him kind of really express himself, as I said, and go for it, and kind of add to what he did in France under extreme pressure against a very, very powerful side. So there probably is. You asked me the question, what would I do? I would be leaning towards that way, but then you want to beat England as well, and I suppose Sexton has gone through periods before where he hasn't played for a long time, and he's seamlessly transitioned back into the side. So there probably is more benefit in starting Joey Carbery.
See, I don't think it's guaranteed that you start Sexton against England either way at this stage. If Carbery plays well against Italy, he's played 2 games in a row, come in, taking the jersey, to drop him at that point because Sexton is captain, I think that's... I guess what I'm saying is I think that what we're witnessing here is the transition to Carbery at 10, Sexton on the bench.
Yeah, if he went out and played brilliantly against Italy, you have that argument, and that's what the Andy Farrell would probably want, because there's been an over-reliance on Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton for years when they were the 9 and 10 and so successful for Ireland. And that was conversations we were having all the time. Who's going to take the jerseys? Who's going to put pressure on them? If one or either of them are injured, it upsets the whole flow of the team. So if he does that, yes, everyone would like to see that, bar Johnny Sexton. But I think, obviously he wants to try and keep going and get to that next World Cup. and he's been brilliant for Ireland. But there is a need for Carbery and Jack Carty and the rest, Ross Byrne, Harry Byrne, to step up and kind of make sure that we don't have the same issues when Johnny Sexton doesn't play for Ireland again.
That would be an interesting dynamic as well, you'd imagine. Sexton being on the bench, being the chaser, once again, just like he was 12, 11 years ago. And I guess the way that would drive standards everywhere in camp, with Carbery looking over his shoulder at Sexton if he was to be the starting 10.
Yeah, you don't know what. Look, I think I had this conversation a number of times on one occasion when Johnny and Ronan were trying to, take each other on, and they had that great competition for places. And I remember after an England game, I think it was 2011 or 12, when Ronan didn't get on for the England game. He was on the bench, and he was like someone who had the biggest disappointment of his life. I think he had 124 caps at that stage, or 120 plus caps at that stage. And it just showed the drive and desire of him that he was on the bench and there was a transition happening, and he just couldn't let himself kind of drop his own standard and allow it to be an easy situation. I'm sure Johnny Sexton he's the exact same. They had that same desire, that fight in them. And if that happened, he wouldn't be pleased. And no matter what age he is, no matter what the perception is on the outside. So, and that drives people on around him, as you say, Owen. That makes people, it puts them on edge and shows that you have to keep that fight going right to the end, and that's what good players do.
Just to kind of like counter what you were saying there, Ger, a moment ago about, this is what happens, the informed player gets a shirt. I know that it happens because Sexton gets injured in the middle of the week between the first couple of games. But who put in the best performances of the first 2 weeks? Because, there's a lot of short-term memory maybe going on here where...
Best ability is availability. Sexton gets injured a lot.
I get that, but Sexton was also excellent the first week. So just even if you just take away that obvious point that you just made there, if you're rating both of these out-halves out of 10 so far in the first couple of weeks, who had the better game, Sexton against Wales or Carbery against France?
Well, contextually, right, we killed Wales because their pack was terrible and shorn of all their best players. We came up against the best pack in the world at the moment in France. And what would Sexton have done in the situation? It's not like with like, right?
I know it's not.
So it's a 9 out of 10 performance from Sexton, and it's a 7 out of 10 performance. And you go, therefore, by those metrics, you pick Sexton back because he is. But that's not what happened, is it? It was like contextually, this is against a really good team, this is against a really bad team.
Well, then I guess that's the question. And contextually, what was the more impressive performance?
Well, Gerard's given Wales, giving them a bit of mitigation there. I think Ireland were ruthless and at times against Wales, but the different sort of pressure against France. So it is contextually, it's different games. But I just think Johnny Sexton, what he does is better than what Joey Carbery does at the moment. And I think there was one or two times when I think Sexton's experience and the type of player he is, the way he can really take the physical exchanges, take the ball to the game line, and his execution of pass in that really pressurized situation is world class. And that's what's made him a world class player for a long period of time. I think that's where Joey Carbery can get to. I think he's a brilliant footballer. So if you're rating him out of 10 on the performances of both matches, yes, it's different. And a lot of the time it is down to your forward pack and the type of service they give. But again, it's not like for like the two games because of the different sort of pressure you're under. But going back to the original point.
One last point on this. There's also the case that it's very unlikely we're going to win the championship now because we lost against the best team, who more than likely are going to win the championship. And so therefore, while the prize money is still hugely important, if the prize is, I know it's not entirely gone, but there's now a bit more wiggle room for us to think long term. And long term, what's the best thing for us? It has to be to get game time for somebody who isn't Sexton, who more than likely won't be this good when the World Cup rolls around, because age remains undefeated in all sports ever.
I just think there's loads of opportunities again for Johnny Sexton. If he doesn't start, I'm just saying if he doesn't start against Italy, I think Ireland can still win the championship. France have got to go to Scotland, they've got to go to Cardiff, and they've got to play England the last one. They've got to be really, really good for three games on the trot. They're probably capable of that, but I said it before the start of the tournament, I didn't think there was going to be a Grand Slam winner. And I think if going into the last weekend, if we're in the mix, and the Irish selectors would be mindful of that as well. And I just think, look, Ireland are a different team with Johnny Sexton in it, and that's the reality. And you want to go to Twickenham. If we go to Twickenham and lose against England, well, then we're looking at a pretty negative Six Nations. What was so promising to start. So, there'll still be plenty of opportunities. I don't think it's a major issue for Joey Carbery if he doesn't start against Italy. He has the France performance in the bank. There's a summer tour to New Zealand. There's going to be November internationals. There's going to be lots more opportunities. I'm not saying it's completely the right thing to do, but I just don't think Johnny Sexton will be too pleased. But
cares?
It's up to Andy Farrell.
Exactly. Like, unhappy player is unhappy at being dropped. I don't care. Like that,
But there still will be one eye on that English. That performance that's needed in Twickenham. So look, it's a debate we'll see later in the week.
Yeah. One last question for you. South Africa joining the Six Nations in 2025, would that be a good thing or a bad thing?
Possibly a good thing, but not removing it. I think Italy needs support, and I think they need removing Italy would destroy them completely. And I know at times you think does there need to be a relegation thing? Possibly, but removing Italy is something that is quite harsh and something that I don't think will happen, obviously, because they're stakeholders themselves. Bringing South Africa into it would offer a different kind of intrigue. Would it damage the Lions tours? Yeah, I think so. I don't know if there's a need to. They've signed up with Sanzar till 2025, which is 3 years away. They're going to be playing in the Southern Hemisphere. So I don't know. I think it'll be exciting if it did happen, and it would add a different dimension to the Six Nations, which is already incredibly historic and captures the minds of everyone's year after year. So I don't know. I think in some ways it could damage it, but it's kind of like the South Africans coming into the URC. It adds something a little bit different, which is, some people are resistant to change in life. And I think it could be something that was exciting. But again, we're speculating down the line, and it's all down to money.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a period of time away. We better mention Connacht, their win at the weekend. I know you've got to go, but they were incredibly impressive in the win over in Scarlets at the weekend. I thought, not having won there since 2004.
They're getting a lot of monkeys off their back over the last 12 months or so. A period of consistency now will be great for them, and obviously they were going to be up against it in the Heineken Cup quarterfinals, but big opportunity for them to remind everybody that actually they have made those quantum leap forward, and we'll be bringing you those games live on Off the Ball. Alan, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Cheers, Ed. Thanks.
It's Alan Quinlan there. You can get the Red 78 podcast in the OTB Rugby stream. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts as well. Search Red 78. Brown says, Zebo can't be near the Irish team. I love him and I'm a Munster man, but he'll be too old for the World Cup. Just not worth sacrificing younger wingers for him at this stage. I do think that we have a fetish for youth. I mean, I'm just making that point.
I was about to say, there's a lot of ageism going on this morning.
But there's a difference between 33 and 37, isn't there?
Well, I cannot disagree with that fact. No. There are two different numbers, yes.
Yeah, and one is bigger. But look, I don't think he's close to it at the moment. He'd need to get in Six Nations shape,